Dearly beloved, we are gathered here in this final moment. Many of you would have been at the church at Shogunas, and therefore that service would have said a lot of things, and a lot of the rituals would have been. I'm not here to sermonize or to give another service as such. I'm here to do the final rites of what my bestie, right? And I'm not here to preach no Pentecostal kind of none of that, or to make any Catholic, oh Father, none of that. I'm here to have a conversation. So forgive me if you came expecting anything like that. I won't be going through that. What I'm here is to closure. It's about closure, and closure is very important. And the words that I will say, and that's not my preaching voice, would echo and reverberate in your life concerning Lenox, Trevor, fondly known as Heads. It is over more than a 60 years, and I don't want to tell how many years because you'll give out the age. Friendship. It's unlike anything that human being could have experienced. It's a kind of like Jonathan and David, Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, and Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. He was Doc Holliday, right? Right. And I remember that movie, that movie with Kurt Russell, when Kurt went to see Doc, and he said, Doc, I want to thank you for always being there. Thank you for being there. Through it all. We've been friends for so many years. We never fell out. We disagreed. Hearty disagreement. We went through Shoguna's government school together. Scholarship winners, everything. We went to press. We went everything, And we maintained that bond throughout our lives. My family became his family. My sisters became his sisters. My children became his children. It's amazing. We traveled the world together. We slept on the same bed. All over we went. All over, And Trevor, as I would call him, he's like an elephant. And you all are like the blind men, the proverbial, the parable of the blind men who had to touch an elephant and describe the elephant. And everyone came up with an idea. One touched the belly and said, well, an elephant, the belly is soft. One touched the tail, said the elephant is hairy. One touched the eye, said the elephant is kind of wet, kind of. They were all right. But that's not the whole picture. You all have, every one of us here today, you have touched a part of Lenox. You've touched him. And you will give a description of him. Probably I might be the only person here qualified to say, I know the whole elephant. And he was the elephant in the room, right? He shared his deepest thoughts. I know what he thinks about everybody. I know what his deepest, darkest secrets. I know everything. And I say that without fear of contradiction. I believe that Lenox, because of certain afflictions that he had. He never wanted to die. Let me say that one time, off the bat. That's not so. But he was a very intelligent and wise fellow. And he knew somehow that the possibility exists that his time could come. And what I found of lately, he started to say things. He started to say things to people. He was sharing his intent. He was sharing what he felt, you know. Sometimes you just call me like that out of the blues. So I just called here to tell you, I have 2 friends in this world. He said, Bernard is, only your Bernard are watching. Right? He said, Jesus and you. I said, what is that? What is that? What seed is that? He said, I just want you to know in case something happened and I never get to tell you. I want you to know. I don't know how I will survive, you know. I don't know experiencing a world without Lenox. Right? Always hearing that phone call. The greatest bishop of all. I said, what, boy? You have Alzheimer's yet? You're still good, boy. That's the fun that we had, you know. But that is, we shaped each other's life. We helped each other. I've always had his back. No matter what situation he was in, I was always there to bail him out. And I felt good. I felt good. The friendship that we had, and they loved my family, my children, every one of them. But it's not only about me, right? It's about you. The time that we have is too short to really say some things, because we have to finish by a certain time. But I would like to open the floor before we go any further. You know, I could always adjust. I've been doing this thing for over 40 years. And I want to say something. I'm a preacher today because of Lenox. I never wanted to be a preacher. Some of our school friends who were in presentation, they're here today, you know. I used to stammer. That's what can say. I was his best man and he was my best man. Right? So when he got married, I was his best man. I warned him, I said, hey, don't call me to make no best man speech. Call Tommy and all of them. Them is teachers, don't tell me I stammer. You understand? I don't know what I go talk. I don't know what I will say. So you better don't call me. He said, okay. He said, boy, you're right. I am in Rienzi complex. And that's after we had the ceremony, the reception. And I'm by the step, drinking a glass. Those days I wouldn't drink anything other than a Pierre Drax. Right? That's not today. And I had an hors d'oeuvre in my mouth. And the moderator said, now we're going to have, and something just tell me, they're going to call me. Dave Allen. Oh my God. I dropped the hors d'oeuvre and I threw down the Pierre Drax or the Apple J, whatever. And they walked from there to the microphone. He walked from there to the microphone, was like, my God, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadows of death, I will fear no evil, or thou art with me, thy rod and that staff, they comfort me. That was that kind of walk. And I took the microphone. And when I finished, people were holding my mother and saying, Mr. Ten, oh God, your son, oh God, oh God. And from that time onwards, I never started again. Never know I was going to be a preacher, one of the greatest preachers in the world. Never. And of course, that's a fact. Eh? Right? That's not debatable. I am. Nobody from TDJ, you go back. So I'm not preaching today. So, right? So that was lunch, right? Huh? I tell you, they laugh. Right? So that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of, and never again. So, and never wanted to be. But I thank God. And I've been many things. Manager, leader, do all kind of different titles. Justice of the peace, doctor, this, that, all kind of, you name it. But one of the greatest positions that I have held is being a minister of the gospel. Because it allowed me to baptize my mother and my father, Lenox, to do weddings, to do all their funerals, done a lot of funerals for the family, Thanksgiving, you name it, I've done it. And always to stand, and I know this is what he wanted. If anybody he wanted to do this, I know. He said it, and I know he would want me to do it. About 3 weeks ago, we had some closure. We spoke a lot of things. But nevertheless, today is the day that we have to say goodbye. And I believe in my teachings and my experience with doing many, many funerals, many conquests, and studying death. I've studied death because I've had to be there for people, all age, whoever, be there for them at the time of their crossing. And I've learned a lot of things about death that normal people wouldn't know. And at times I will share those things at 40 days and different times. The belief, if people have different belief. It's one of my beliefs that after the third day, that the dead is conscious. And they stick around for 40 days to bring closure. They visit people in dreams. Those who can listen, they visit. Sometimes different things. Put things in place. There's a lot of mystery to life. I want to tell you, Trevor, as I call him, Trevor, listen, he came to me. I'll tell you what he told me. You could believe, you don't have to believe. That is not my problem. He was there the week. I was there, and he was there. And he said, look, I serve in my own week, you know. And then he rested on the couch and he said, I'm tired. I'm tired. He said, go ahead, I'm tired. And I think he was tired. He was tired, and that's his message from beyond. He was tired. He was tired of tablet and all the ups and downs and this and that. He was just tired. And sometimes we could get tired in life. And then again this morning, he spoke to me again. And he said, I'm sorry, I have to exit. But you go on. You go on. You'll accomplish what we started. We started Flamewood together, you know. He built Flamewood Ministry. We started it. It's a pity that he was not able to be in the place that he built, and we started it together. But he told me, he said, you go on. I wish you, he said, you will accomplish the vision and the mission that we started. I know, right? But I want to take this time now that there are people who would want to share, not long, if you share different things, and those who miss out, probably after 40 days, you'll get a chance to tribute. I know you wanted a tribute. You wanted people to share, not long. I feel I want to start with Binky because he started, Binky was with him in Grenada, and he said a lot of things to Binky. And Binky was part of our crew, eh? So if there's anybody knows, Binky, eh?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. One of my greatest fear was to be here doing this. Because if I had to do this, it meant that Lenox was no longer here. And if you knew Lenox, you would know that Lenox was never a person that you couldn't make out. Lenox was always present somewhere. You either hated him or you loved him. And the worst thing you could ever do if you hated him was to give him a chance to talk. Anybody who knows him The worst thing you could ever do is to give him a chance to explain himself. When he was finished, you cry for him, you dried your eyes, and you forgive him. Now, Lenox and I in July had to go to a funeral of one of the relatives in Grenada. And we had an occasion to spend 3 days, I think, together. And where for the first time, as Dave said, Lenox never felt that that was for him. And he used to rebuke my mom, he would rebuke me, everybody, don't talk that dead, talk wrong me. I'm not going to dead, right? And in Grenada, he started to talk backwards. And if you knew Lenox, he always talked forward about plans and what we're going to do and whatever, right? As the bishop said, the bishop was Lenox's longest serving friend. They probably met at the age of 5, and I came a year after. And for school, when we were living in Perseverance, it was the bishop, Lenox, and I. Lenox and I would walk to the RC church compound there and meet the bishop, and we'd walk down to school together. Lunchtime, we'd go home by us, and the bishop had lunch with us, home by us. We'd walk back to the school, and that was our routine. One of the things I want you to know about Lenox. Lenox was my older brother by 6 days short of a year. And for 6 days, he would say to anybody who he met, look, my twin. Right? And that was a running joke between us. And I would say, twin for 6 days. He said, it doesn't matter, we still twin. Right? What though did happen is that we had a bond that was unshakable. Anywhere he felt he needed me, he would say, we going. He never said, you could go. We're going so and so. We're going so and so. And the whole purpose of this sitting down here, I want to tell each and every one of you here, Lenox was never afraid to confront the life that he lived. Lenox knew as he went his way through his life, there were people whose corn he mashed, there were people who felt hard done by, and people who out and out felt that he cheated them. And he needed a place and a situation where the people who felt that could come and say, he do me this and he do me that. And he was never afraid to confront that. This forum here is so that people could express any story you want about Lenox. And he was brave enough to be here to do it, and wherever he is here. Right? He did not want anybody to sanctify him, nor did he want anybody to make him a villain. The one thing I know is, from my standpoint, when we put the scale up, I am 100% positive it leans in favor of him being a good man. To know Lenox Lenox was an experience. Sometimes crucial. The staff and many people will tell you how much work they get from him. But at the end of the day, you did not have a better champion. I just want to share two things with you. My mother was born in Grenada, and at a very, very young age, she came to Trinidad with her grandmother. And it meant that she had little or no relationship with her birth mother. She probably met her birth mother when she was already married. The point of that story is, her mother came and got ill and was dying, and she felt she had to go, and she invited all her children to go. Because we didn't know our grandmother well, there was no pace, if you want, no attachment, no commitment for us to go. And most of us found a way to decline. And because everybody declined when she asked Lenox, he was hesitant to say one way or the other. Now, in that period, Lenox had to go somewhere, and he went to buy a shoe. And because, as with most things with Lenox, it was a last-minute thing, the only shoe he could get was an orange leather shoe. He was very, very proud of his orange leather shoe. So, the funeral took place, and my mother was there all alone and trying to make peace with her grief and whatever. And she said, while she's doing that, coming through the crowd, part in the crowd, she saw this orange leather shoe. And when she looked up, it was Len. And when she asked, he said, even though I did not come, I did not want you to face this alone. So I was here for you. And that is the man Lenox was. There are many people here and elsewhere who Lenox did not want them to face things alone, and he was always there for them. And I think my mother used to say foolishly, he didn't care. He felt at some point people would do the same for him. So a lot of things Lenox did, he would co-opt you into it. He would say, possibly, Dana, I have a friend who have a legal case, so, they have no lawyer. I want you to take that case to me. Don't worry, I go fix up. Right? He ensures Dana hands full. He ensures. I worked for a time in the Port of Spain Corporation, and I worked in a section. I did not own the Port of Spain Corporation. And there were beelines of people coming to me. Lenox said you could do this for me. Lenox said you could do that for me. Lenox said you could do this. And I had to come out of my comfort zone to make what he said possible. So, most of you might have some experience where he co-opted you into some scheme of his. That was the man Lenox. The last thing I want to share with you so that I don't dominate the mic. Lenox moved to Glencoe about a couple of years, I can't remember, 2, 3, how much it was? 3. And I think his last year, he was going home. And on the corner to where he lived, 2 cars pulled up. and shut up the block around a parlor. And it was all over TikTok and drama and thing. And he was very, very annoyed with that. And within 2 months, he went and he met heads of the gangs, and he said, you all don't have to do that. Hear what? Let we have our sports here, let we bring everybody together. I will finance everything and go ahead with that. And true to his word, he did it. And since that time, I could go by him and visit him without being afraid. And he did that block to block. Port of Spain, La Hoqueta, Beetham, Nelson Street, same thing. And he did not want somebody to say, hey, he's a good man for doing it. Lenox did things because he felt they were the right thing to do. Right? So, the floor is open. Whatever your story is, Lenox is prepared to deal with it. Thank you.
Yes. That orange shoe story. I remember, some of the guys from presentation will remember that Lenox came to school for a whole term with 2 left side shoes. But then again, that's him. He did it his way. There was a song I would play for him, no matter what, he did it his way. He had his own mind. He never told you no. But if you ask him, you could bring the moon for me? He say, all right, yeah, I'll do it. Right? He never said no. He never said no. So that is, we are getting little pieces of the man, and therefore we have Dan that's going to.
Sorry. Do you mind if I stand there? Sure. I'm not as brave as Binky. What can you say about my father-in-law, Lenox Fingal? Firstly, how can a man of such permanence, such presence, and such power be gone? It doesn't seem real. I don't know if you feel the same way as I do, but Lenox didn't really need to speak to let you know he had entered the room. His presence was felt long before his voice was heard. Lenox did speak loudly, but rarely did he need to, and sometimes at a whisper was when he spoke the loudest. When I first met Lenox, I admit I was very nervous. I was even smaller than I am now, if you can imagine that. And Lenox, imposing stature, his deep voice, and his obvious suspicion of me left me a little scared, to say the least. I was quite nervous when I asked for Leanne's hand in marriage, but he made it feel all okay, and Lenox and Stephanie gave us the best 2 weddings that I could possibly imagine, and I'm really appreciative of that. And he could not have been happier to see his daughter starting a family. We didn't always see eye to eye, and we clashed a few times, but our differences faded, and we became bonded over our joint love of football, politics, but most importantly, family, especially Leanne. And when Frida arrived, well, that was it. The focus softened, and instead of clashing, I was able to learn from him. He was a great man. And a few Christmases ago, I gave him the autobiography of Alex Ferguson, someone we like to discuss quite regularly. And inside, I wrote a story of one great man for another. That's what he was to me. He was a great man. I'd like to read a quote by Alex Ferguson now, and it says, "The strongest people are not those who show strength in front of us, but those who win battles we know nothing about." And that epitomized Lenox to me as well as his love of family, in that all of the time we've been coming to see all of you over the course of the last week, the stories that we told where Lenox was doing this for me, Lenox was doing that for me, he looked after this, he looked after that, he was the person you went to, he was the person you spoke to, the person who sorted things out for you. But never did he let that spill over, that responsibility or that stress onto his family. His family he loved the most. And he would do everything he could for you and for his family and to keep the stress from your head. That's what I felt about my father-in-law. He was really, truly a great man who touched so many lives. He was multifaceted. He fought not only his own battles, but anything he could for anybody else too. Lenox Fingal was many things to many people, and to his immediate family, he was a loving father, a partner, and a best friend. The last thing he said to Leanne was, "I love you, my beautiful daughter." And to Frida, "I love you, my beautiful granddaughter." And the last thing he said to me was, "Look after our girls." So, I love you, father-in-law. You have very big shoes to fill. And I promise to you is that I will do my best to look after our girls, Stephanie, Leanne, and Frida, and the rest of the family in the way that you would have, and in honor of your memory.
Thank you, Dan. Yes. And we continue, right? Oh, Pixie, little Pixie, big Pixie, all right.
Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the youngest Fingal. I know a lot of you don't know me very well because a lot would be said about the boys because everybody knows the boys. And I came way after. way after. As Mervyn like to say, both of us holding up the rear. There's so many things I could say about my brother. I know everybody would have spoken about his love for Leanne and Frida and Mitzi and the rest of them, but I want to speak about his first true love, who is my mom, my late mom. Mommy did not want to drive anywhere with Lenox. She would quarrel because Lenox drove 1 mile a minute, 1 mile an hour, sorry. And she would quarrel. And even when I started to drive and I would try to be very respectful of the speed limit, she would say, "Oh gosh, you're driving like your brother, man. Come on, speed up, oh gosh." And she would quarrel about his driving. The next thing she would quarrel about is Lenox's love for Anshar. Now, for those of you who don't know Lenox loved Anshar. And it was so bad that me being the little sister, he would send me to buy Anshar from this particular woman. And my mother had issues with her hygiene. And for me to get the Anshar for Lenox, I had to sneak out and go and get it without mommy seeing. And every time I was caught, she would say, the woman's husband peeing in the Anshar and you and Lenox wouldn't stop it. Come on, man. That was the brother I know who loved his mom. He loved his family. He loved his in-laws. He loved his brothers. He loved me. Our final conversation that we had about a week before he died, in fact, a few days before he died, it was about Frida, how he was missing her birthday, and that pained him a lot. It was also about Mommy, because the anniversary of her death was on the 3rd of December. And every year I would normally send out a little thoughts on Mommy to all my siblings. And I would usually start it with, "We tumble in one belly." And that is something Mommy taught us to do. We were all joined at the hip. We would all tumble in one belly. And he told me, he said, "Pix, girl, I don't know, this year, I don't know. I needed to be by myself on the anniversary of Mom's death. I just needed to be by myself. I didn't want to talk to nobody." And I said, "I understand." I said, "I don't know why this year it's so emotional, like crying all the time, but it's emotional." And he said, "Girl, I don't know." And we started to talk about something else. I loved my brother dearly. I love all my brothers dearly. And I made it when I had my birthday last year. I made it all about them because they are my rock. All of them are my rock. They recognize things in me that I don't recognize in myself. They hold my hand in the deepest times, in the times that I need them most. They would just call me. Lenox would just call out of the blue and say, hey, all is well. And I would say, hey, all is well with you. And that's how we do it. He would be forever in the hearts of all of us. To Mitzi, Leanne, Frida, Dan, Stephanie, Binky, Roel, Michael, Julie. To all my nieces and nephews. To everybody who came here today to celebrate his life, I thank you. If you knew him for one moment, you missed a lifetime. I love him, and I will always love him. On the day of his death, I don't think I lost a child 6 years ago, and I don't think I ever broke down as much as I did on that day. From 6th Avenue to Charlotte Street hurt my screams. I cried for everyone that we have lost, our parents, our siblings, and all the nieces that may have gone. And today, I want you all to celebrate my brother. Celebrate him, because that's what we had planned to do before he died. Celebrate. And maybe we could come together to do something special for him. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Pixie. And the tribute goes on, you know, telling a story.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fingal by adoption. Yes. My mom is sitting to the back. I know she's a bit emotional, so she will want to come up. But this has to be a prayer answered, because while doing ministry, we had to move someone who needed to get to an apartment quickly. And in moving him, we have to make sure and give them food, help with the rent and things like that. Type of ministry my husband and I do. And while they're praying for the guy and blessing the house, he started giving me a story that he wrote a book. And he used to sing for this guy when he's not well, and he will sing and the guy will fall asleep because he has an excellent worship voice. And I said, really, maybe you should sing for us. He said, no, not right now. He said, I'm going to give you the story about the books. He said, the guy take 20 of my books and he tell me he will pay me for all, and he will give away the books as gifts. I said, what's this fella name? He said, Lenox Fingal. I say, stop. You just said Lenox Fingal. I only know one Lenox Fingal, right? So I'm like, let's back up. Where you know him from? He give address, he give area. I said, wait, he have some brothers. I have to make sure, you know, she'll go on us. And he said, yes. I said, oh my God. I wanted to tell the guy, that's supposed to be my uncle. Point in time. And I did tell him, he's my uncle, and I'll try and reach him for you, which didn't happen. Because he was really, really busy. Some of the calls were being screened. But I say all of that to say this. Yes, we're paying tribute and things like that, and he's prepared for all the backlash and stuff like that. And I said, I must confront him at some time. It didn't happen while he was alive, but the forum opened for me to say something about it, you know. But yes, we loved him. He was a kind of go-to person as well for my husband and I early in our marriage. We want to get some advice, and we went to him. And even with all the boys, his brothers, they are uncles to me. We don't see each other very often. We have cousins that we don't see very often, but we know they're there for us if we should call and need something. Thank you so much.
Yes. Lenox love Heads, Trevor, love Anchar and Curry Mango, right? We have Reverend Phyllis there who would always, I think she owed him some curry mango, right? Once you make curry mango, he leaving anything and coming for that, and he will eat out all. If you eat his curry mango, you want to see him get vexed? Don't touch his curry mango. That's Lenox, right? We go on any. Yeah, Russell.
Hi, good afternoon, all. Truly, Lenox is what I will call a destiny helper. Somebody sent to this earth by God for the mere purpose of touching each and every one of our lives. And he did so in a very special way. I think most of us, all of us, could attest the fact that in some way, Lenox did impact our life one way or the other. I am truly blessed to know Lenox and to associate with him and the families. I am his uncle-in-law. Well, he's my uncle-in-law, basically. And I've known Lenox for over 40 years. And I've seen God use this man mightily. Unbelievable compassion, talks about, love one another. And you couldn't fault Lenox in that. He would really go out his way. I have known a most promising sales manager where I worked one time, but Lenox is one of those most promising guys also, But he do come true for you, And I thank God that I have personally known him, and he has touched my life in a tremendous way. A great example, and a man who, is a destiny helper, destiny connector, someone who truly example really touched our lives, and the spirit of the man really brought people together in any way that he could possibly can. Wherever there was a need, if he can't fill it, he'll find somebody to fill it for. He was a man that touched each and every one of our lives in some way, and I thank God I've known him. Amen.
All right. We're doing good. Yeah. We got a few more, I encourage. If you feel led, no, don't be under any pressure. As Binky said, you want to say good, bad, indifference, right? Oh, we have Samu. Samu always been one of us. Samu.
My name is Samuel Saunders. It could have been equally that my name is also Samuel Fingal. My first acquaintance with the Fingals date back to the early 1960s. We were living in that cradle, that nursery where we all grew up, called the barracks. For those Shoguners people who may not be too familiar with the barracks, these were wooden accommodation, which we all would now call condominiums, and which, because it was made of wood, we call them barracks. Most of them had no electricity, no flush toilet. We had outhouses. We were sitting liming in front of the office when we noticed a Caroni Limited truck pull up. And the first person our eyes alighted on was Sylvester Felix. He was outstanding. It wasn't easy to miss him. And that's my first memory. And they started offloading the truck and filling this only bungalow that existed in the barracks, and that had been vacant for so many years. Needless to say, by the end of the day, as young boys in the area, we already made the acquaintance of all the Fingal's boys. And we came to know each and every one of them. And since then, my life has been so inextricably bound with that of the Fingals that Zix is in the habit of saying, this is my brother by another mother. A lot has been said about Miss Farrow. Miss Vera was like my mother as well. My father used to work shift in the factory, and when this is in the crop time. So if my father is working 3 to 11 p.m. or 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning, he would deliver me to Miss Vero. And Miss Vero would take care of me as though I'm one of her own. She would make sure that I'm prepared for school the next morning. She would iron my uniform, and I would go home. Binky was talking about coming home for lunch. That was a normal thing. We didn't have lunch bag, lunch kits. We didn't have transport. We walked to school, and then we walked back home for lunch. And as long as my father is working, Miss Vera would always prepare meals for me. This is not easy for me today. It's difficult for me to call him Lenox, even in the most formal of circumstances. He will always be heads. And secondly, he would be preacher. Right? All of us had nicknames in those days. Binky came with his. Never knew how we got his. Ziggs felt he was some good footballer. And they gave him the name Ziggs. The boy couldn't even kick a line. Jim, I can't really recall how he got his name. Oh, yes. Dirty Jim. Dirty Jim from Scotland. Yes. Heads. Oh, God, look at the man now. It's very obvious. Bones. Bones put on some size in his later days, but oh, geez and ages, when Bones was a little boy, you only had to pull up his shirt and you could count all the ribs. And we gave him the name Bones. With his family over the last 10 years or so, I have shared their grief with the passage of so many of them. It wasn't easy when Uncle Charles passed away. I felt it as though he was my father. Vernon and I were the first two young men in the barracks to pass for presentation college. And that was an ultimate achievement in the early 60s. You have to understand, free secondary education was something that was beyond most of the boys and girls growing up in that era. And to pass for a school such as presentation was a major achievement. And Vernon paved the way for me, and later for Binky and Ziggs and Heads to come into that auspicious institution. Now, I told you about the barracks being a cradle. It was a nursery. We are the last of the barracks boys. Time is passing us by, and we are going one by one. But it doesn't mean that it is the end of a friendship that began so long ago. I now live at Mamoral, and I've been living there 9 years now. Yes. And during that 9-year period, every single year since I started living there, the Fingals and I have a get-together where they would come up by me about 10 o'clock. And most times, we have to move a motion to move and for people to go home at midnight. In the last few years, what has happened is that we have started inviting some of our closer colleagues who grew up with us, who are Roman Catholics like ourselves, or who went to presentation, or played with that institution which we try to keep alive for so long, the Shogunas Catholic Youth Organization. The last conversation Lenox and I had would have been about 2 weeks ago. There's something about Heads, whenever he calls, the first thing he always would inquire, Breads, how's the health? Because like almost all of us, I too have my health challenges. I had some health challenges in 2019 where I was in a coma for 4 days. I actually passed away. And the first thing these Fingals would tell me when I came alert is that St. Peter say, it are no lawyer in heaven. So he sent me back to make their life hard. And that is an event in my life that I will never forget. I had no recollection of what went on when I was in that coma. But there's one thing, there was one constant for the time that I was in that coma, and that was Ziggs. Ziggs was there consoling my children. Because at one point in time, actually, the doctors gave up on me. The children received that particular call, which nobody who has someone in the hospital wants to receive. So they went prepared for the worst. And I have to thank Ziggs for that. And it shows the closeness and the bond that we share. Lenox was abroad at the time. And based on the information that I received, he was most distressed about my condition, that he couldn't be here to be with me, to be with my children, and to give them that requisite support. But that is just indicative of the close bond which we share. We really like brothers. Every single year, as far as I can remember, since our parents, Charlo and them, passed away, we would make a pilgrimage down to the cemetery on the 1st of November, where we would clean my father's grave, my parents' grave, their parents' grave. We cleaned their great-grandmother's grave, right? And sometimes we would help with Victor Espinosa's mother's grave. And then we would turn up en masse in the night to light up these graves, maintaining a tradition that is dying. But it points to the fact that the Fingals and I are very traditional people. Our love for one another, our respect for one another, stems from the fact that we grew up in that nursery called the barracks. Generally, we don't have the usual bad habits. And that stems from a common background, a common area in which we live. The values which were passed on to us by our parents, who are all Grenadians, except for their father, who was Ghanese. Yes? Lenox and I had a different relationship to the other Fingals. Lenox was always an intelligent fellow. Dave, you're not going to drive a wedge between me and them boys, even though what you're saying is true. Lenox was the worst pitcher in the barracks. When you couldn't pitch marbles, we used to say, fufunox. Well, Lenox was way beyond fufunox, you know. And when he lose the marbles, he used to cry. Yes? And then sometimes he would go and beg his bigger brother, Bones, to come and win back his marbles. Right? He never liked to lose. I've read that little thing in the pamphlet about Lenox. Oh God, he never really liked to lose. You know. Lenox was a good sportsman. He preferred cricket. But he loved football. We represented the Catholic Youth Organization, short CYO, in football competitions in Central. We were among the best organized teams. We used to have meeting every Thursday night. Yeah? In fact, we blame Lenox for mashing up CYO. CYO was a club that had two ladies in it. Susan and her sister. Yeah? Oh yeah, three. Right? Then Lenox opened up the club and bring in so-called netballers. When we had to pay for uniform, heads buying uniform for them. And you know that's where you get your wife. Yes. Me business. The talk was afterwards. Lenox bring woman in the club so he could get a wife. Sorry, Stephanie. Stephanie is a dear colleague of mine, it's a very good friend. While most people in the barracks went to government school, I went to Vedic school. Stephanie and I were in the same class. We passed common entrance at the same time in 1965. She went to Bishop's, I went to Press. So we go way, way back. But that doesn't stop the fact that heads bring woman in the club so he could get a wife. I have listened to a lot of the tributes paid to heads, and I must confess that they are all entirely correct. He was a big man. And as somebody said, when he whispered, he spoke the loudest. He didn't have to speak loudly to make a point. He didn't like to lose an argument. But at the end of the day, he would distinguish himself. He would know that he lost, though he wouldn't say so. But at the end of the day, we remain friends. Very early in our lives, we all learned how to resolve disputes among ourselves. And that is how we lived our life from then as children until now as adults. Heads, you are my brother, I love you. I've always loved you. May your soul rest in peace, and I can assure you that we would not forget you. Before I close, I just wish to point out that the last conversation Lenox and I had was about 2 weeks ago. And we were speaking about our own mortality, in the sense that over the last few years, we have been attending funerals of so many of our contemporaries. And he called me out of the blues and he said, Samo, we meet once a year. I'm telling you that is not enough. All our contemporaries are dying. It hasn't touched the inner circle as yet. A weekend passed and it touched the inner circle. We made plans that we would discuss meeting of the Fingals and that select group of people at my home in January. We never got to plan it. My boy took his leave. As we are all going to take our leave sooner or later. So I look forward, after we have dealt with our friend, that we should be meeting sometime in January, or at least in February, in memory of Preacher and all those who have gone before us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. We don't have much time again, but you know, whosoever is coming got to be kind of like brief.
I was trying to get up here before Samu. He's a hard, tough, and difficult act to follow. Right? That don't mean he don't lie. No. You know, every time I meet Samu, he asks me, when are you going to leave that man, girl? I am Heather Fingal, for those of you who don't know me. I have the dubious distinction of being married to the last Fingal boy, Mervyn, better known as Binky. 45 years ago, I met Binky in CYO. So when Samu was talking, it touched a nerve. In CYO. And yeah. And we got married 5 years later. We're still married. I must admit, though, through Binky's best efforts, not mine. And so it means that I have known heads. I didn't mean this Lenox nonsense. I know heads 45 years. I am sitting here and I'm hearing about how distinguished he is, how much of a gentleman he was, he was a pastor too, because I remember Vero saying, when Leon was small, when Dave and Heads just started the church, Leon come and telling Vero how she was with Daddy and they was papping. They was papping. So Vero said, what she mean? I said, she probably saying they clapping. She said, oh God. Anyhow, you can't go down the road with Vero. I am hearing all sorts of things about heads, and I want to tell you all something about heads. Heads was, if there was a definition, if you look up the definition of mischief in the dictionary, you would find Heads. You all probably don't know that side of him, but that's the side I know. My mother-in-law, we accompanied, Heads and I accompanied my mother-in-law to more than one function. Some funeral, some wedding. He would be the driver, I would be the company. And we go in. And she would always express in frustration, I ain't carrying all no way behind me again. Or you have no behavior. Now, I will explain to you what she meant. I would be standing here, Heads would be down in the end so. And somebody, some people, we always say people who can't talk is the ones who like to give speech. So somebody would go up and they're giving a speech, and from the time the first yellow adjective drop, Heads would find me. We didn't have to say a word. He would start to laugh, I would respond, and that was the dynamic, right? We were in a funeral once, sitting next, Vera was between us. And Heads and I think we actually on tape in the funeral laughing. Vera got so angry, she said, I'm not carrying all your no way behind me again, all you have no behavior. She said, Heads, better you didn't marry Heather. But, because you agree. Now then, as I say that after, I remember a time when she was small, Leanne hated me because she felt that I was too close to her father. But Heads and I had a real thing going, right? We were tight. The same anchow by the dirty lady, I and Heads used to go and buy it. One night we nearly killed Pixie. We make a chow, right? We make a chow, and the chow was so hot. A Saturday night, I'll never forget it. We sit down eating the chow, and Head say, where Pixie? I say, she's sleeping. He said, but she can't be sleeping, and we make chow. We wake up Pixie. Pixie did not open her eyes. Pixie reached for the chow and started to eat. Hospital, pick up with Pixie that night. She went into spasms from the pepper. And Heads and I were in a corner laughing, and Vero was, as usual, quarreling. And I don't know what to say about all you. That was her phrase. But Heads wasn't only fun. I remember when my mom had cancer and was due to have a surgery to remove her breast. And I had taken so much time off from work. I used to work at the bank then. So much time off, had exhausted my time off, and I couldn't get any more time off to go the day of the surgery. Binky, who used to be with her more than me, I think he had a meeting he couldn't make. And I worried all day that my mother had to go through that without me. When I went to the hospital to visit my mother after the surgery, she said to me, she said, Heather, Heads came in. I said, Heads? She said, yes. I said, Mommy, you sure you wasn't under? She said, no, he came. She said, before they wheeled into the operating room, somebody stopped the nurses, the wardsmen who were wheeling her. And when she looked up, it was Heads. And he said to her, Miss Jean, Heather couldn't come and Binky couldn't come, but I came. That is who Heads was. He was a compassionate, loving, caring person. He used to drive you up a wall, right? I don't believe in only giving platitudes. Heads was a frustrating man. He used to frustrate people, and some of you who don't want to talk, he used to frustrate you. But that frustration came with a love. He believed in tough love too, right? There wasn't a day, I can remember when I was at the bank still, there wasn't a day when Heads and I wouldn't talk on the phone. When Leanne was small, Auntie Heather was too much for her to say. So she abbreviated in her childish tongue to Auntie Ha. Heads called me to his dying day, Ha. He never called me Heather after that. He would call Ha, where Binky, where your husband? Ha, I'm thinking about so-and-so, let me do so-and-so, whatever, right? And like I told a friend of mine some time ago, I have 6 brothers of my own. My parents had 10 children, 6 boys and 4 girls. When I got married, when I went into Vero's house to live, I got 5 more brothers. Roll, dust, bones, zigs, Heads. They weren't my brothers-in-law, they were my brothers. Heads was my brother. I would miss him. I really don't know. Somebody said they don't know how we're going to live without Heads. I have known Heads for 45 years. How do I reconcile not having him around? I don't know, but we have to find a way to make it. Right? I am so heartbroken not for myself, but for Binky, for Leanne, for Pixie, for Ziggs, for Stephanie, for all of them. I see the hurt, I see the pain, and I wish I could take it. I wish I could take it away from them, but Dad, thank you all so much for coming, and thank you all for listening.
Yes, Heather. And heads love chow. Heads love women. I don't know which order, but so what? But we are coming, we have 5 minutes. Two. I know people can't control talking. 2 minutes. Take the shot. 2 minutes warning. Who's going to come and do that 2 minutes? You don't have to talk everything. The time will come, we'll have a next session, and you can talk all kind of thing whole night, but not today.
Good afternoon, all. This is my sister Lauren Denny, formerly Clark. My name is Michael Clark. Zings right know the fella. Lauren and I has been in every Fingal wake, every Fingal funeral. As a matter of fact, I recall after burying Zig's daughter, I said to Heads, hey, we need to slow this thing down. That was a month ago. I lost a close friend, Binky. And I tell him, hey, brother, you can't afford to die, Never would I imagine that I would lose Heads. I look forward to growing old with them fellas, Heads, Zings, and Binky. And Karen used a correct word, they're mischievous, especially Heads. He up to mischief. I remember in CYO, they helped shape who I am as a big man, as a military officer. You're in CYO, and them scamps harassing everybody who's the president. Well, I joined in them too, until I became president. Well, I know I have an easy road, because my friends are the mischief makers. Woe be unto me from the first day. They let into me worse than anybody else. But it caused me to learn something. Hey, you had to stand on your own 2 feet. And that has guided my life since then and made me strong and powerful. I will miss Heads. Yes, I still have the 2 others to contend with afterwards. But I understand a lot of what people have said here today. I may not have had the experience of Samuel Saunders, who would have grown up with them in the barracks. But Heads had his impact on me, and sharing time with Heads, Ziggs, and Binky has always been a pleasure and will continue to be a pleasure. And Tess, I hope we grow old together. I don't want any surprises. Thank you.
To the Fingal family, I know the pain you all feel because I know the pain I'm feeling. So be strong and know God is good. And be there to support each other. Blessing.
Yeah, he used to walk behind us when he go to school. Right. For those of you who didn't get the opportunity, definitely we have to do something, probably at the 40 days, and give everybody a chance to bring that closure to express what you have. But, it will be remiss of me if I don't close with a particular scripture. And it is important. 1 minute. And I quote from 1 Thessalonians 4 and verse 13. He said, brothers, sisters, we do not want you to be ignorant about those who fall asleep, which is a euphemism for die or death, or to grieve like the rest of men. One of the things that people always hire me to do funerals, they like me because when I do a funeral, people don't cry. So I always, tell people don't cry. However, when I went to Heads Week, I messed up real bad, right? I messed up real bad. I broke my own code. But he said to grieve like those who have no hope. We believe that Jesus died and rose again, and we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. We do not grieve. We celebrate. I celebrate. As I said, he told me, he said, I finished my part. I've existed my part in it. You go on. Go on. what I did. And I thank God for the opportunity of knowing him, of sharing such a wonderful bond. There's one side of the triangle that is not here today, Bernard Samuel. We were called the Deadly Trio. You understand? The Deadly Trackers. That's what we were. He's not here today. It's a pity. Nevertheless, I represent him. So we come to a close. Shall we all stand for a second? Allow me to. And then we'll open the coffin and we'll have some viewing. And then we move. And I don't know if you all have that song that you all could play, Take Me Home. You could do that song? Take me home. Okay, they have to go now. So just, Heavenly Father, Almighty God, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this great soul. And now we all say goodbye in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we will proceed to the committal room for our cremation. Feel free to grab some refreshments at the tent on your way. Pallbearers, please. you.